It's not going.
I think David was
What?
one of the greatest people ever lived.
David?
No, it's not going.
King
I mean, I
David.
could wait, not wait, however you want to do.
It's a real resource to have it online.
Yeah.
They were also fascinating.
It's working?
It's like I would watch these.
Well, how come the numbers aren't going up here? Usually this thing. Oops. What? It's working? Dope. Okay. Sababa. Yalla. Okay, so quick recap for those who weren't here. Did you hear the last lesson? Okay, good. So everyone else was here. Asher, did you hear the last lesson?
Yeah.
Great.
I was not here.
And you were not, and you didn't hear the last lesson either. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly recap. Last lesson, we asked the question. We said the question, which was why Mordechai doesn't bow down. Okay, and we brought different opinions in Chazal that we saw that explain different ways. One of them being the personal one, where we saw that Haman was Mordechai's slave. Other one was a religious statement, which was that a Jew does not bow down to Avodah Zarah, and Haman was an idol, wore an idol. There was some religious issue there. Just the story of the religious side has a lot of chizukim. There are many ways we could see that. In other words, it's Daniel's story again of not bowing down. It's not far-fetched. Let's put it like this. It's not far-fetched. The Chazal, let's say, he had an idol. It works not bad at all. In our parsha also is like returning over the story of Daniel. But the kivun we were going in, that we sort of really elaborated at the end of the lesson, was I'll call it a more holistic resistance that Mordechai has to Haman. And his resistance isn't at first, we're going to go into this a little later, isn't at first per se to Haman himself, as much as it's to what Haman represents in Achashverosh's government. The governing of the few over the many, the government of the individual over the many, we said that is an abomination to Hashem, in that someone usurps Hashem's power, becomes the only voice to be heard. Only Hashem is the only voice that could be heard. Any man who tries to take that mantle is in a sense turning himself into an idol, turning himself into a god. That is what Mordechai cannot take, as it will always lead to horrendous acts of cruelty in the world. Maybe not at this moment, but later. So that was the key one. That's why we say Mordechai is willing to stop. And I just want to sort of prove this point from some of the sources that we have on the page. So if you guys look at the second page, we have the second page. Megillah Daf Tetvav Amud Aleph. It says it's the second source on the page. The third source from in the Megillah. The verse states when Mordechai perceived all that was done, he rent this is a pasuk in Perek Dalet, right? He puts sackcloth and ashes. He goes out in the city. And what did Mordechai say when he cried out? So what is Mordechai yelling here when he's out, right? He goes out and he screams a great yell, a great cry. What was he crying? It's an interesting question. We usually say he was crying, he was yelling out. But what exactly is he yelling out? So we have a machloket here. Rav said Rav and Shmuel throughout the Megillah have this ongoing machlokot about explaining the Megillah. Rav said that Haman had risen above Achashverosh, for he saw that Haman became even stronger than Achashverosh himself, and he controlled all the affairs of the empire. So this is an interesting political statement. He started yelling, "Look, Haman is greater than the king. Look what's happening here. Don't you see that this man, who is apparently not worthy, is dangerous? He's on top of, he's going above the king. Don't you understand what's happening here?" Also a political statement. But look what Shmuel says. And Shmuel says, the upper king has prevailed over the lower king. In a sense, really saying this, I don't even know how to pronounce that word, euphemistically, and insinuating just the opposite. In other words, it would appear that Achashverosh, the lower king, has prevailed over the higher king and God in heaven. Now, he's using that, what is he saying? The lower king is really saying the lower king is over the higher king. He's saying, Achashverosh is usurping God's place. What?
How could we even make such a?
This is exactly, I think, what we were talking about. In other words, a king who says, I know everything. My way of rule is through me and only me. In this case, Haman. He gives Haman the power to do this, but it doesn't matter. Haman and only Haman, that is taking the place of Hashem. As we said in the last lesson. In other words, Shmuel says this is his cry. His cry is, look at what's happening here. And again, he only cries, he only yells after this chapter. And as after Perek Gimel. In the beginning, Mordechai is not yelling anything. Mordechai is part of the government. Okay, so that's one source that I wanted to just show and show you guys. Now go to the next page, and I want to go show you how Chazal have an interesting point when they talk about dafka the good things we see in Achashverosh. Chazal weren't always so happy giving out compliments to Achashverosh. They didn't really love him that much, but.
No, not really.
But here they have a couple things, and let's take a look. It's from the Midrash Rabbah.
Always tell everyone that he was a bad guy.
Right. Well,
when really he wasn't much of a bad guy.
So we'll see. He's an interesting guy, but here they found
Achashverosh, not Haman. Everyone knows Haman's a bad
guy. No, wait, Haman. We're not talking about Haman right now. Now just Achashverosh. But let's take a look here. The third source or the second source, source on the third page.
We always say he was a bad guy if he does absolutely nothing.
Who?
Achashverosh.
And
then all of a sudden the Gemara says the reason why he's a bad guy is because he said something to Haman. Is that if you want to try going after Jews, well, good luck with that.
That you go back to that Midrash all the time.
That's the only source I've found why he's a bad guy. Other than that, there is no source.
So
Haman literally told to everyone, "I'm going to try to kill the Jews," and he literally did. And that's why we.
Okay, wait. Just hold on with that. We've seen. What you said is important, but what we see throughout Chazal seem to, especially in the very beginning in Megillah, they have a whole page of saying how Achashverosh is not the greatest guy in the world.
Right.
But let's take a look at this one. This one dafka is a little different. So you see the Midrash Rabbah in the Hebrew. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Imi, arba'a dvarim tovim hayu boto aish. There were 4 good things in Achashverosh. Okay, we found 4. Let's take a look. Okay? Asa 3 shanim belo keter ubelo kiseh. He had 3 years where he didn't strive, that he wasn't wearing a crown or a chair. V'imtin 4 shanim ad shematza isha ugenet lo. He waited 4 years to find a good wife, which is an interesting way to explain what he did on those 4 years, as we talked about. Wasn't exactly, I don't know if that's his a positive statement.
He waited 4 years. He waited 4 years to settle down. But during those 4 years, he was definitely not settling down. Right.
And what he said, but it's interesting. It's interesting how they view this. And the other is, V'lo haya oseh davar ad shenimlach. He wouldn't do a thing until he took advice. Until he had advice. In other words, this picture of not doing things until you have your advisors talking to you, that Chazal sees is a very important thing. And a good thing. What?
The savlanut?
Both the savlanut and the willingness to hear other opinions.
When are they talking about? Because this is not him when
Haman. Exactly correct. I think this is him before Haman. In other words, this was seen as a positive beforehand. We talked about the shift, right? We talked about the shift from the American and the Soviet models, right? The democracy as opposed to the dictatorship, right? The terror as opposed to invitation. The different ways of ruling empires. So I believe this is talking about before that, but they see this as a valuable thing. In other words, again, as we were talking about, Achashverosh was ruling at some point. He was ruling well. He goes off, but right. So Rav Pinchas adds something else. But that's for our point, just to see that Chazal are talking our language. And Chazal seem to see that there are things that Achashverosh did well. As we said, his rule beforehand was somewhat just. But now it's gone. So now I wanna give a better hochacha, better proof about how you really see that this idea of being Jewish, being Yehudi, in a sense, is one that does not stand for this usurping God's. So let's take a look here. Okay, the Megillah Daf 13 is the last one on this page. Megillah 13a. Rabbi Yochanan says a different explanation of the verse. You guys remember when we said there are a whole bunch of explanations of the verse? Was he a Yehudi or a Yemini? Was he from Yehuda or Binyamin? So one we saw at the very beginning of it when we started learning was the critique of, oh my gosh, this guy, what is this guy doing to us, right? About Mordechai not bowing down. So I went, this is a little bit before, another explanation. So Rabbi Yochanan says a different explanation of the verse. Actually, Mordechai came from the tribe of Benjamin. Why then was he referred to as a Yehudi? On the account of the fact that he repudiated idol worship. For anyone who repudiates idolatry is called a Yehudi. So on the basic level, we'd say like this. Ezra, are you with me? Okay, on the basic level, it's like this. It seems like a Yehudi is someone who says, I will not bow down to idols. This is right. That is a Yehudi. All right? It is understood here in the sense of Yehudi, one who declares the oneness of God. As it is written, there are certain Yehudim. This is the proof, okay? And they don't regard you. This is taken from Daniel. Daniel is in the story there where they come and they say they're not bowing down to the statue that the king made, and they call Yehudim. They're Yehudim because they're not bowing down. Okay, so we have two stories. We have Daniel not bowing down. We have Mordechai, right, who says when they ask him why he's not bowing down, his explanation is that he's a Yehudi, right? Ki yigidu lahem asher hu Yehudi, that he's a Yehudi. So Chazal say that is what a Yehudi is. He really was from Shevet Binyamin. He's really from the tribe of Benjamin. But Yehudi means you don't bow down. Now, where do we see that Yehudi is you don't bow down? And look at this fascinating. You go on to the next one. Incidental to the explanation of the word Yehudi, as one repudiates idolatry, the Gemara relates that when Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi introduced his exposition on the Book of Chronicles, remember I told you guys that the rabbis a lot of times before books they would say, this is how I open this book. Whenever I teach this book, I start like this. So apparently Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, this is how he would start when he taught the Book of Chronicles, which is Divrei Hayamim. He just the Book of Chronicles and he said as follows: all your words are one, and we know how to expound them. This introduction makes reference to the fact that the Book of Chronicles cannot always be interpreted literally, but requires exposition, as the same individual might be called by various different names, as in the following verse. Okay, so now they're taking a little verse in Divrei Hayamim, which is the first 9 chapters of is full of names, and this is one of the psukim, and it's very interesting what he takes. And his wife, ha-Yehudiya, this is what it says. His wife, Ishto ha-Yehudiya, bore Jared, the father of Gedor, and Heber, the father of Soko, and Yekutiel, the father of Zanoach, and these are the son of Bitiyah, the daughter of Paro, who Mered took. First of all, I don't know if you guys knew that the daughter of Paro had children who became Jewish. There's a fascinating source in its own right. Okay? But then they say, okay, so his wife Yehudiya, that's Bitiyah, the daughter Paro. Why is she called a Yehudiya? She was not a Yehudiya. She was a Mitzrit. Why is she Zoche to the name Yehudiya? And she goes like this. Why is she, who we are told at the end of the verse was Paro's daughter, referred to as a Yehudiya? Because she repudiated idol worship. As it is written, the daughter of Paro came down to wash in the river. Rabbi Yochanan says she went to down, wash herself and purify herself from the idols of her father's house.
Wasn't the river itself an idol?
Maybe, but she's going on to do Tvila. She's going to do. So whatever. I don't know how to go into that specific. It was a mikveh. It was a mikveh. She turned it into a mikveh. She raised the nitzotzot of the Nile. No, but let's go start with the pshat. The pshat is obviously Bitiyah repudiated being an idol. She marries a Jewish guy. She has Jewish children. She must have become a ger. That's what it is, right? She became a Yehudiyah. But that's not exactly what they say. They say she. It doesn't seem to be Erev. No, but she says why she get the name Yehudiyah? Because she said no to the idols of her parents. And I ask you guys, in the story, is that what she does?
No.
Does she say no to the idols of her house?
No.
She says no to her father by taking the.
She does.
She does raise
a Jew.
Moshe.
She only does it in secret.
Even though they knew that it was a Jewish child,
right.
So that was one of the offense that I think she did against Paro.
Against the Paro.
Yeah.
The pshat is, she didn't do the gzera, right? The decree. The decree was all male children will be thrown into the Nile.
Mhm.
That's what she doesn't do. She says this kind of abomination, this kind of cruelty, I'm not part of. I can't be part of this. I can't be part of this. This kind of unjust ruling, I'm not part of this.
That's interesting because we were just learning from Rothman saying that a Jew is not cruel at heart. No Jew is cruel at heart.
So you're saying in a way she may also have had this Jewish streak in her to not be this cruel. I agree, that could very well be, but I think it's also he who stands up to tyranny, he who says no, or she in this case, says I cannot accept this kind of rule, even as its own father. She gets the name, the honorary name of Yehudiya. She is called a Jew, even though she wasn't Jewish, at least until later. But she wasn't. But she is called a Jew. A Jew, just like Mordechai, who's willing to stand up to the idolatrous rule. Okay, we're calling it the idolatrous rule of the single man, of the one who uses his power and thinks he's God. That they're called a Jew. So it's a different. It's a twist on this Gemara here, right? The pshat of the Gemara is she repudiated her father's sin, but when we read the story, what she really repudiated was her father making himself into a god, not the idols of his house, the idols of himself, of him being able to do whatever he wants with no limit to his cruelty. Okay, so I think that's another proof into our things. Okay. Just we're going to go into something a little bit. There's someone else who does the same thing. Someone else does the same thing in Egypt. Also women. Who else? It's very interesting. When you learn the first chapter of Sefer Shemot, there are horrible decrees. They go very quickly in the Psukim. It's like one after another, but it may have taken time, as the Ramban explains. If you guys want to see the fascinating Ramban, who like you read that and you go, oh wow, this is Germany in 1933 and 35 and 37. You just like read it, how it goes on. But the Ramban really explains how he couldn't do it so quickly. You have to go laat. Am Yisrael doesn't seem to be revolting. No, they don't seem to be rebelling. They seem to be as sheep to the slaughter. But it's not true. Really, Am Yisrael fights back in one way. How do they fight back?
For one thing, when the decree came out to send all children straight after their birth, all males go to the river. It was Miriam who was like head midwife. She wouldn't do it.
Okay, so you're mixing up, but you're right. You're right. That's one thing. But before Shifra and Pua, before Shifra and Pua, the midwives, they're the ones I was talking about. Before that, first of all, Am Yisrael, they rebel because they keep on having children. Right? What's Paro's problem? He says they're going to be too many. Look at them. They're too many. They're multiplying. We have to stop this. And the first act, as the Ibn Ezra explains, the first act was to make them work really hard so they would stop having children. That's really what they're trying to do. When he sees that they continue having children, then he has to go on to the next stages of the destruction. Okay? Am Yisrael rebels by continuing having children, which means, this is not exactly part of our shiur at the moment, but it means that we believe in the future. Who stops having children? People who say, why would I bring someone into this world? Now, the children is the ultimate belief in hope, in how the world will be a good place. It's the ultimate optimism in having children. People who don't have children, that's their statement. Their statement is, oh no, this world is bad. Why would I bring someone here? I'm thinking about myself. All the bad reasons. Children are like the ultimate optimism. So Am Yisrael continues having children. They are not willing to go into despair, even though Chazal talk about this with that famous midrash, how Amram and Yocheved split because they said, "What are we having more children?" And Miriam comes and convinces them to get back together, and then they have Moshe. There's a lot to go into that. I just don't want to go off topic too much. That's the first revolt, but it's not a straight out rebellion. The first people to rebel against him are the two midwives, who after Paro tells them specifically, as you give birth to these kids, you should kill them, they don't. And they lie to him, and they just don't.
The Jewish women
The
are
Jews-
too good of midwives.
Right, they're midwives themselves. They midwive themselves.
By the time we get there,
Right, chayotena, they're like animals. They give birth to themselves, whatever it is. And there it says a very, very important pasuk for later. It says vayake asher yiru et Elohim, because they feared God. Hashem makes them houses. So it's a very strange pasuk. Vayas them batim. He makes them houses. So without going into the houses, they were Yerei Elohim. We don't know if they were Jewish or not Jewish. The Midrash says there was Yocheved and Miriam. There's a machloket if they themselves were Jewish or not. Who were these midwives? But in the Parshanim, in the commentaries. But whatever it was, they were Yerei Elohim. In other words, they said, "Sorry, Paro, you think you're God. We fear God. We have someone above you. There is a higher morality than you," which Paro could never hear, obviously, thinking he himself is a god. There's a higher morality than you, and we won't do this. Remember that word Yerei Elohim, because we're going to meet it maybe at the end of this lesson or the beginning of the next lesson when we talk about Amalek. Okay? So,
Yerei Shemayim means to fear the heavens, no?
right. Yerei Shamayim it's a term we use nowadays. In the Tanakh, they don't have that term. It's a Yerei Elohim. Okay, we're going to see it in its different things. Tov, just on the point of this, also Moshe is born, and what does Moshe do? What's the first thing Moshe does when he goes out? Is for the first thing we know about Moshe is
He prayed.
no. The first thing we know about Moshe,
Kills the brother.
he goes out and he sees someone hitting someone else, and he's not willing to accept that. And then he sees two people fighting. He's not willing to accept that. And then he goes to Midian, where he's a complete and total stranger. I have to ask you guys, would you guys, the first thing you came when you got to Israel, and you saw two guys arguing, would you go over and say, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Like, you can't even speak the language. You don't even know what you're doing. Would you do that? I wouldn't do
I
that.
almost did that.
You almost did that?
Yeah.
Shkoyach.
It was in Ashkelon. It was on Kabbalat, after Kabbalat Shabbat. There were two women quarreling. It was really bad.
Oy.
I almost ran there, and since I was wearing kippah and stuff like that, the other people said, "Don't go there," and they helped them out. And I feel really bad. I could have gone there earlier and saved it, but everybody said, "No, you did the right thing, not involving."
Well, whatever it is, Moshe doesn't do what Asher did, and he goes right into this horrible mess between the shepherds and the daughters of Yitro, and he cannot take injustice. It is not in Moshe's box to accept something like that, as it wasn't as his mother growing up, both his mothers growing up, the midwives Yocheved and Bat Paro. From both of them, he gets this statement that no, man can't make unjust rules and enforce them. It can't be, and it doesn't matter who you're up against. Okay, let's just go on. One more midrash here. I want to go an interesting back to what we talked about how single rule is a problem, and this is a really fascinating one here. So take a look, please, at the second page. I think it is the third. I don't even know. 1 second. 1, 2, third page. Sorry, everybody. Third page. We're going to just look at psukim that everyone knows. The Tower of Babel. Okay, Migdal Bavel. Migdal Bavel. First of all, it's a fascinating story. It's sort of like the last mythology of Bereshit, right? Bereshit has these stories that are obviously universal: the flood, the Garden of Eden, the snake, the apple. It wasn't an apple, right? The prey. I hope everyone knows it wasn't an apple. Green apple. Okay. They're like these stories that are so obviously have universal and deep, mythical, religious, spiritual meanings. The Tower of Babel is sort of like the last one of those, and then we're going to meet Avram the next chapter. Okay, but the Migdal Bavel. Let's just read the story. Everyone on earth. This is the first. This is the whole story right here. Everyone on earth had the same language and the same words. And as they migrated from the east, they came upon a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them hard. Bricks serve them as stone, and bitunim, I don't know what that means, serve them as mortar." And they said, "Come, let us build us a city and a tower with its top in the sky to make a name for ourselves. Else we shall be scattered all over the world." Hashem came down to look at the city and tower that humanity had built. And Hashem says, "If, as one people with one language for all, this is how they have begun to act, then nothing that they may propose to do will be out of their reach." Now this is translation. This is not what it says in the Hebrew. Okay, this is mamash a commentary. This is not a direct translation, as no translation can be. But let's go on with it. "Let us then go down and confound their speech there, so that they shall not understand one another's speech." Thus Hashem scattered them from there all over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it's called Bavel, because there Hashem confounded the speech of the whole earth. Bavel means to be mevulbal, to mix up. And from there Hashem scattered them over the face of the whole earth. When you read this parsha, you have to go, one second, let me read this again. Everyone liked each other. They all spoke the same language. What? This is like utopia. What in the world is wrong with this? Hashem comes down, nope, sorry everybody, goodbye, scatter. What are you talking about? This is like perfect. This is what we want to happen. So everyone deals with this, okay? Everyone deals, from the Midrash on, everyone deals with what exactly was the problem with Migdal Bavel. The Rashbam, on the Pshat level, I like it, on the Pshat level, is wonderful. He says, listen, Hashem just told Noach, and he told Adam before, that their job is to go over the whole world. It's to spread throughout the whole world, right? That's what it says. Right? And go over. I don't remember the pasuk exactly. He says scatter over the world. That's what he says. And they're doing exactly the opposite of what Hashem says. So on the basic level, they're just not doing what Hashem said, which is a bad thing in itself. But on our level that we're talking about, one voice, or in our, as we said, one language, that removes God from the world. You need the 70 languages. This is what's going to happen. He's going to scatter them in the next chapter. As it continues here, they're going to talk about, as it was before and after, they're going to talk about the 70 nations that come from Noah, which is exactly comparable to what we talked about, the word of Hashem split to 70 voices. Mm-hmm. And there are 70 languages that Mordechai knew and Yosef knew. And this idea that it needs to be multiple voices for Hashem's presence to be really revealed. Mm-hmm. This is what they're trying to do. This is one explanation, at least, for the Tower of Babel could be this: they came with one voice. Hashem says, "There's no such thing as one voice. You misunderstood. You think it's unity? It's idolatry. You think it's oneness? It's usurping Hashem. This is not what I want." The 70 is lichatchila, not b'diavad. It's not, unfortunately, it's split into 70. No. It's the only way you can recreate my word is through 70 languages. It's through 70 opinions. It's through 70 different prisms or sides of the prism. That's the way to reveal my word. That's the problem with the Tower of Babel. The oneness cannot be. There is oneness. It's there. Hashem is one. But in this world, there's no one. And anyone who thinks there could be one, in a sense, is creating an image in his own likeness. It's always going to be just him. Okay, so this is the sin of Migdal Bavel. This is the sin of Paro, and in a sense, this is the sin of Haman and Achashverosh. This is what's happening, and this is what Mordechai cannot accept. B'shum panim ve'ofen. And let's just finish up here with the last source on your page. For the last one is the Midrash Tanchuma, right? It's the last, I think so, right? So yeah, the last source here. It's a fascinating source that says has a really interesting statement in it. But I just want to bring it back to another thing we've been talking about. We're talking about Mordechai. What do you do when you meet this evil? Okay, what do you do? Again, just as beforehand, what do you do in exile when you're a powerless Jew? Do you attempt to go into the mechanizations of government and try to find power? Or do you just say, well, you said, no, I am here, leave me alone. I don't want to be part of it. Just let me do my own thing. Or do you attempt to affect the world in a greater way? We said Mordechai chose one way. Now suddenly, even by his actions, it seems to be, both in what he did with Bigtan V'Teresh and the fact that he's not bowing down, he's bringing a calamity on the whole empire and also on the Jews. Right? In a sense, it seems like it's almost everything he did was wrong. Everything he tried to do was wrong. He still has Esther in. I just remind you that because of Bigtan V'Teresh, the king freaked out and changed the rule. Right? He was a suspect of everyone, so now I only have one. So everything Mordechai's been doing has not been working in a sense. Mordechai could have decided, that's it, I'm done. It could be a decision, I'm done. Let Hashem take care of it. Man can't be part of this. My political ideas, my thinking, my maneuvering, look where it led to. Asur. For us to think that way. It's so dangerous. When you are not willing to use your initiative, your human initiative that Hashem gave us to try to make this world a better place, you are... Let's take a look at this midrash, okay? ואלה המשפטים, okay, it's for המשפטים. זה שאמר הכתוב, מלך במשפט יעמיד ארץ, ואיש תרומות יהרסנה. The king, through justice, will stabilize the world, but a truma man, which is what we're going to have to talk, will destroy it. What's an ish trumot, okay? מלכה של תורה במשפט, שהוא עושה מעמיד את הארץ. The Torah, right, through the kingship of the Torah, through justice, which is the beginning of Parashat Mishpatim, of the Parashat Mishpatim, it stabilizes the world. The ish trumot yarsena. What does ish trumot yarsena? What does that mean? A man of trumot will destroy this. Listen to this. Im mesim adam atzmo keturma zo shemushlechet bezavit habayit. If man turns himself into truma is part of the prados that you have to put on the side. Okay, for the Kohen, but you can't eat, you can't touch, you put it, it's kodesh, it's on the side. I think it's a specific. If man makes himself like a truma that goes on the side, ve'omer, and he says, Mali betorach hatzibur, why do I have to get involved in what's happening? Mali bedinehem. Why do I have to be involved in their mishpat, their judgments? Mali lishmoa kolam. Why do I have to hear all their voices and their yelling and their problems? Shalom alecha nafshi. I'm going to deal with myself. Again, he called it truma. He's kodesh. You're a tzaddik. Harei ze machriv et haolam. He is the one who destroys the world. Ve'ish trumot yarsena. This is ish trumot yarsena. The king.
On purpose, truma, because it's kadosh being left to the side, not participating.
That is the statement. Yeah, it's not just someone who's saying, I don't want to have anything to do with this. A lot of times there's an ideology behind being on the side. It's saying, no. It's like we said before. The Jews say, no, we want to keep our Torah and mitzvot. Just stay. Let us just do our Torah and mitzvot. You say that and you say, I'm not going to be involving myself in the world. I'm not going to look to right the wrongs. I'm not trying to lead the people who need to be led. He destroys the world. What a statement. Dafka, the king here, is viewed in a positive term. The king is trying to make seder. He's trying to make organize the world as much as he can. That man is great. But the ish trumot, he's so Mordechai.
Sorry, Rabbi, very briefly, what pasuk is this from?
Mishlei.
No, but what's the pasuk? Okay.
What?
The Midrash Tanchuma is on what pasuk?
Well, the very beginning of Mishpatim. It comes in the... No, it's not. It takes a quote from Mishlei to bring what it was. It's the beginning of Parashat Mishpatim. It talks about laws. And he's saying, this is what the Torah is trying to do. The Torah is trying to fix society. It's not running away. It's not saying, oh, I'm going to be a holy man on a mountain somewhere. No, it's interested in your it's interested.
Live on the website. It's a
Okay.
new thing. Today's
No, it's interested in your donkey that did this and you lost this, and it goes into the little details of everyday life. They're like, oh my gosh, just leave it alone. Let's go and be holy somewhere. Let's go and be separated from the world. Let's go live in a cave somewhere and wear a sackcloth and just daven all day and all night. Let's close ourselves up. Yarsena, you destroy the world. Mordechai reads this pasuk. Mordechai sees this and says, I'm continuing. We'll see in chapter 4 what his reaction is to what Haman does. But this is Mordechai. Yeah.
Sorry. Last time after the shiur we discussed the relationship here to Rivka and Yaakov, a short discussion that was similar, not only based on the context of Rivka warning Yaakov that Esav is planning to kill him, but was also similar in language use, was also similar in terms of the ambiguity by which Rivka appeared to have heard, was told, because we don't know who told her. Just like Mordechai seemed to got to know about the plan to assassinate. And you pointed out that after this, Rivka starts to mumble about, or jumble about things. She talks about different things. To paraphrase,
I know, she seems to say not what she's really afraid of. She says to Yitzchak, this is the end of the story with the brachot, when Yaakov takes the brachot, and Esav wants to kill him, and then it says, "Vayugada davar leRivka." And he pointed out very amazingly that it's the same kind of terms in the psukim that seems to be Vayugad leMordechai. Mordechai somehow hears it's a passive hearing. It's the same words. Just as Mordechai hears it, Rivka hears it, and it's just interesting. And the terms again, he hears something that people want to kill, and you try to save someone, but in this case, the saving is not. She goes to Yitzchak and says, "I don't want Yaakov to marry anyone from here." What do you mean? You want to send him away because you don't want your brother to kill him? She doesn't say that.
But there we know it's Nevuah. Do we have any reason why here it's Nevuah?
No. How Mordechai knew? Well, I think you could pull it back. I think there are Chazal that have that, and it makes sense. Yeah.
So she says, actually, I'm disgusted with my life on account of the daughters of Chet. If Yaakov takes a wife of the daughters of Chet like these, of the daughters of the land, what is life to me? And so it's reflecting a lot of interesting things. Maybe it's reflecting the desperation that Mordechai felt, the fact that he always felt the need to hide his Jewish identity. Because so too here we see this emphasis, the daughters of the land, and then Yitzchak says to Yaakov, he summons Yaakov and says, do not take a wife from the Canaanite women. Right, so I think it's telling us also again another reason why, when we relate it back to Esther and Mordechai, where Mordechai decides not to bow down. He's been feeling so oppressed all his life, not being able to show that he's Jewish.
Interesting. You're saying the idea here going between we're surrounded by the culture, in the sense the girls of the land, and I can't take this anymore. We have to have our own stand at some point.
Yes.
Interesting.
So the reason why I got to it is also because of what you just talked about, the idea of giving up or finding a solution. So in a way, this is a very desperate statement by Rivka. I'm disgusted with my life. What is life to me?
Right,
etc. Right. Yitzchak, on the other hand, says, Jacob, come here. Don't take a wife from the Canaanite women. Do this. Right?
He's active.
Yes,
Interesting. You're saying that. Wow. There's some interesting things here also to connect maybe Rivka to Esther and Mordechai to the.
Yeah.
Because we'll see Esther may have given up. We'll see that soon. Interesting. Wow. This is a whole chibur that I never thought of. It's fascinating. It has to be definitely delved in. I've never seen anyone relate to this either, by the way. So I think it's a great. Fair. Cool. Okay. We're going to delve into Yosef a little bit. Okay. Because you guys ready for Yosef? We already talked about how Yosef is following us throughout the Megillah. The story of Yosef, the story of the Megillah is
So are we relating Yosef again to
Esther.
Esther and Mordechai.
It was Vasti.
Esther and Mordechai. Esther and Mordechai. We're going to bring them together.
No,
We're going to
Yosef
see.
was related to Vasti.
Now this is taken from this book. I've got to say, okay, did you read the chapter on Yosef?
No, not yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay, so in this book, I've never seen it quite as strong before from what Chazoni does here. But he, after relating different points, he has a scathing critique on Yosef that can be heard. It can be heard. It's not so difficult to hear this in the Tanakh, but he brings it out very interestingly. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Yosef. Give Yosef's story in a certain light, okay, and then we're going to reconnect it to our story, to the Megillah, okay.
Joseph was a bit vain. He was kind of punished for
So
that.
throughout the story, Chazal are always super. They listen really carefully to the psukim, and they don't let anything go by. So correct, right? Yosef Na'ar, and right after Yosef says, right after he's successful in Potiphar's house, it says Vayi Yosef Yefet Torah V'Fem Mer'eh, just like it says about Esther. And then suddenly the pasuk after is the wife of Potiphar sees him, and the Midrash immediately says, "Oh, you're making yourself all nice when your father is suffering at home, and in sackcloth, and you're making yourself right. Let's see you manage with this lady." Okay, and there are punishments throughout the story of Yosef for what he does wrong. Right? He asked the butler to help him. They say, "Oh, you are the butler." All kinds of interesting things throughout the story. But this more general statement I want to bring out. So Yosef, who is Yosef in a sense? Yosef is the ultimate succeeder. Succeeder as someone who succeeds. He is a success story. Everywhere he is, he succeeds. What does he do to succeed?
Nothing. He just got lucky.
No. So that's thank you, Yosef. This is your namesake here. One second.
Every time he says Ibrei Anochi, everything's from Shemayim, constantly.
He's thankful to Hashem.
Okay, I'm not going to go that way. It could be an explanation, but it's not the very beginning. Yosef in his father's house. What does Yosef do to be so liked? It's very interesting.
I mean, he doesn't be
the
liked.
first
All he
thing-
does is just go to his brothers and say like, "Hey, I just had a dream. You're all gonna bow down to me and everything."
No,
and all.
but to be liked.
He didn't do anything to be liked.
Before that,
Before that, there was a situation that the daughter of Leah, the children of Leah were very proud because they were the firstborn and they were the first wife children. And they looked down upon the midwife, how do you say? The
shvachot.
The mitzvah children.
maiden.
So Joseph sees that, and what he does was he went up to the Leah's children and talked to them a little bit, not to the expected, how do you say, kavod,
Right.
respect. But whereas to the maidservant children, he gave them more kavod so that they feel more comfortable being in that house as one of the family. That was one
I would
that
go back even further.
I mean,
Because
he was the
Joseph
firstborn of
himself-
Rachel.
Who was he
That's why.
born from? He was born from
Rachel.
Rachel.
Yeah.
Also, he was the first child of Rachel.
Mm.
She was barren for quite a long time.
Mm.
So when he was born, he already was born with a bit of favoritism because it was a miracle
also
for her
favorite-
to have a child.
No, but he
They
says
weren't-
why.
they weren't
Yeah.
sure she was going to bear children.
First
He
child.
says that he's the child of my old age, Zaken, but we know it can't because Binyamin was later, would have been the Zaken.
Right.
So Zaken
It's
must mean he's
kunim.
wise, and that's why, because he learned.
Because he learned, because he was always, the Rashi has three different things. He looked like him, right? There are all kinds of things the Rashi says, the Ben Skunim. But you're right. He's obviously the daughter of Rachel. There's the son of Rachel. There's obviously a connection there. But the first thing we hear about Yosef is that he's a na'ar. Vayaveh Yosef et dibatam ra'a el avihem. You guys can open it up. This is chapter 37 in Bereshit. We're going to actually be going through the Tanakh, so you might why not have it.
Known to injustice?
No.
He tells on them.
He tells on them. He tells on them. Now, we don't know exactly what they were doing, but he tells on them. And it seems to be that Yosef is there's an attempt here to rein them in. Our kids, injustice, something here is not good. Yaakov, let's restore the order to our family. Let's get back. Let's bring things back. And his father really likes him. And then in his dream, what does he say?
Everyone bows down to me.
Everyone bow down to me. We're going to restructure society here. That there's going to be a leader, okay, who brings everyone home. It's going to be good for everyone. This is the way to structure our house. We're going to bring everyone for me to lead. There are other ideas here that I'm not going into right now, okay? Yosef, in an attempt, he's not trying to usurp his father in that sense, even though it's not clear in the second dream, right? That the sun and the moon bow down to him, how exactly that works. But he's trying to restore, bring in the brothers back so they serve their father, okay? It drives the brothers nuts. They don't want to hear this guy trying to bring in control, hold on to them. Betach not their younger brother. They get rid of him, okay? Yosef goes down to Egypt. And he's meeting Potiphar. Why does he succeed there? Why does he succeed with Potiphar? He just does everything really well. But does he do it for himself?
No.
He's always. Who does he do it for?
You do it for the Potiphar.
For Potiphar. He's always he's a wizard at doing what his master wants him to do. It's amazing, right?
Is that why the wife of Potiphar wanted to like have an affair with him or something?
That doesn't seem to be at the moment. It doesn't seem. I mean, it may be part of it. The guy's super successful. I mean, he's not just a regular slave. He's obviously touched by God. There's obviously something here special. But Yosef, in his mind, he is always serving his Adon. He gets thrown into jail. What happens when he gets thrown into jail?
He became good friends with the jailer.
The same exact thing happens, right? He serves the master of the jail. He's amazing. He has such chen. And we talked about Esther having chen, right? Because she is always making the other person feel good. So he's not only making them feel good, he's also doing them. He's doing their will. And he does it better than them. Right? That's what it says. Potiphar leaves everything. He's saying, listen, this guy does it better than me. He doesn't know anything anymore. Sar Beit HaSar doesn't know anything that's going on in the Beit HaSar. There's a prisoner running the jail, right? Because he does it better than me, but he's doing it for me. And then Paro takes him out of jail. And Yosef rises up, and he gives him this amazing plan of how to save themselves in the jail. And Paro goes, whoa! Gives him the ring, right? The ring. Gives him the ring, right? The ring, okay? Gives him the ring and says, everything you want to do, go ahead. All of Egypt is yours. And when the Egyptians come to Paro later and say, this guy is causing trouble, he says, Yosef, he said, go to him. There are other reasons to say that. But on the pressure, Yosef, every place he gets, everywhere he is, 4 different situations, he's always seeking to please / help / move forwards his master. And Yosef isn't doing this for himself. It's his motion to do. This is what he does. And it's astounding and amazing, and he's super successful. And he gets to great places, and he does great good. In Egypt, right, he brings all the food. He saves all of Egypt from starvation. And when his brothers come, later in the story, when his brothers come, he goes to Paro and says, my brothers came, I'm going to save them. What he says to his brothers is, the reason I'm here is to save you, right? This is why I'm here in the first place, is to save you. He clearly understands. He understands his part. He understands that he was sent by Hashem. He understands he's there to save his brothers. So what's wrong? What's the problem? Well, suddenly, in chapter later in the story, this is like after he met his brothers and everything's wonderful and fun and great, suddenly you start hearing some bad chords. When Yaakov dies, and Yosef wants to take him out of Egypt, to bury him in, first of all, Yaakov makes him swear. Like, it's Tishabali. It's very, very clear. Yaakov, what's the problem? He said, I'll take you. No,
because I
swear.
heard this. Like, if he told Yosef to swear, and Yosef couldn't just go out and bury his father just easily without any problem, he had to go ask Paro, and he.
What's the problem?
Because if he didn't swear on him, Paro would most likely say no. But
why would Paro say no?
With the languages, it goes back to
Yeah, because
Wasn't it like that because since
What?
no, it's different. Sorry.
Yosef knew
After
more
Yaakov
languages
died,
than Paro, and Paro made Yosef swear that he wouldn't tell anyone. So if Paro would say, "Just break your swear," no problem. He could say, "Well, should I break a swear that you have built more languages?" He's
No,
like, no. Instead, just go take a nod.
Okay, definitely,
Basically, a
definitely,
safe,
definitely,
it's basically a safe.
definitely a possibility. Definitely a
safe-
possibility to it's
Yeah.
a strong arming Paro into using the
Yeah,
shvuah.
it's basically
Definitely a
a
possibility
safe language,
through the
like,
midrash.
I'm not sure how to call it, but like something like a strong way.
Yeah,
Like,
no, to force his hand in
Yeah,
a sense.
a
So
strong
it's an
force.
interesting kivun. I want to go in a little different
that's
direction.
what Rabbi taught.
Yofeh. I want to go in a little different direction. I mean, definitely the midrash says this, but I'm going in a different direction.
Really?
I have a different opinion.
Yeah.
Because
from
Pharaoh,
Rashi or from Rambam.
I think it was Rashi, if I'm not wrong. Because the Chumash I have is Rashi.
Okay.
I
No,
think
I
it
was
says
teasing,
it says Paro. If they go to Hebron, so what happened? Paro would have the intention of thinking that the Am Israel are leaving them, and that would be, he would say, "No, you guys are not leaving. No matter what, you can bury him. I give you the best place. Go and bury him there." So that was one reason I think Yaakov knows that he needs to swear in order to make sure that he's buried there in Hebron.
Because they wouldn't let him bury him Hebron otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, another direction. It could be. I want to go again in a different one. Suddenly, just in the pshat, we see Yosef is like doing whatever he wants, and suddenly, this is a couple years later already. Everything is like strained up. Egypt is working fine. He gave Yosef. We have to remember what Yosef did in Egypt, right? All of the lands, all of the money. They're all Paro's now. Okay. Does Paro need Yosef anymore?
No.
He needs him.
Why does he need Yosef? 1 second, I'm going to go on for a second. Yosef, when Yosef tries to ask, he goes to the household help of Paro. He says, "Listen, guys, if it would be nice, could you please go maybe ask Paro if I can take my father out and bury him?" He can't even get a audience with the king. He can't even go there. Listen, I'll read you the psukim. It's like you're like, whoa, what is going on here? It's so different. So he has him right, Parshat Vayechi.
It's weird though because Yosef was still in a high position.
Yeah.
He's a very high position, right?
Very high position.
Okay. So listen to this. Listen to the words, and it may ring a bell here also. This is chapter 50, the last chapter in Bereshit. Pasuk Daled. The fourth pasuk in chapter 50 in Bereshit. Vayavru yemei bchito. Everyone finishes mourning, the first mourning period for Yaakov. 50 nun.
Bechito is his mourning.
The mourning, the crying for
In
Yaakov.
his crying, that's what it really
The crying.
Yeah, his crying.
Vayidaber Yosef el bet Paro lemor. He goes and he speaks to the house of Paro. Imna matzati chen beinechem. Anybody remember those terms? Right, throughout the Megillah, that's always the turn. Imna matzati chen. Dabruna beoznei Paro lemor. Please speak in Paro's ears and say, "I'm sorry, my father made me swear so I could go. Please, I'll do it. I'll come right back." Vashuva. Okay, it says the end of verse 5. My father made me swear to take him, and then to bury him in his plot. And please, Vata Elena, please let me go up. Again, please let me go up. I'll bury my father and I'll come right back.
Wow, a real husband.
Whoa, what is going on here?
Wow.
Where's the powerful? What's this
Number 2.
begging? He doesn't have an audience. He can't say this to Paro himself.
Debate,
The thing is that it does make a bit of sense. It's not like he's a nobody who's just knows Paro and saying, "I'm leaving for a bit. Why are you leaving? It's suspicious." No, he is like Paro's like next in charge, and he's leaving his land. And Yosef obviously he won't go alone. He needs to obviously take
A
some
royal,
camels,
right.
He needs to take some materials. He obviously keeps some money with him. If he leaves the country of this guy who he's basically a minister for, it could be seen as malicious or
That's true, but the question is, why
Scheming.
doesn't he go straight to Paro? Why is he going to the big
I
Paro?
have
Well, everything he says is true, but why doesn't he go to Paro if he's so powerful? That's
that is a good
the
question.
question.
I have one opinion regarding this. The opinion is like, I'm just thinking about an office work. You know, I have to go to my boss and I need to ask something from him, and I need to make sure while I'm away, my teams are doing the best job. So what happened is that in order to get the favors, if I go directly, my boss is going to ask me, "What about the team?" They cannot be there. They need to be supervised. You need to make sure the project are done on time, and I can say as much as I can. I can make up all this thing and say it'll be okay. However, it is much stronger if my team goes up to my boss and say, "Don't worry, we can take care of him, so he can go."
Okay, first of
So,
all,
for
that's
that-
right. I like that. I like that Perush.
For
It's
that
interesting.
reason,
So Bet
the
Paro.
household is not that Yosef is not trying to say that he is limited to the power. It's just that if he is away, somebody's going to have to rule. But if the household go up to him and say, "Come on, it's his father,
Just
let him
give it
go."
7 days. He's gonna go, come back.
We can take care of
We can take
It's
it.
kind of a guilt trip.
Yeah.
But no, not only that. I like that Perush. Actually, I like that Perush. I like that Perush. I just think as you read these psukim as they go on in chapter 50, you feel the shiabud, the slavery that we're going to see in the next chapter in Shemot, deepening. Okay, building. Yosef has to ask. He's sent up with guards that go up with him. They have to come back. They leave. What does he say? What does Paro say? Vayomer Paro, go up and bury your father, like he made you swear. And Paro goes up, and he goes up with the servants of Paro and the elders of his house, and all his Kol Beit Yosef vechav uBeit Aviv. He goes up with his brothers and his father's house. Rak tapam v'tzonam ubkaram azvu be'eretz Goshen. What does he leave in Egypt?
The collateral.
Well, the children and the sheep. Where does that ring a bell? When they want to go out to make a korban, Paro says, no.
You can go.
You leave the kids, because if you want to take the
It's
kids,
very demeaning tone.
and if you want to take your kids, no, we understand what you're trying to do. The kids stay in Egypt. You're not. We want you back here. Okay, and then they go up, and then suddenly, listen to the end of the statement. When Yosef dies, right? Look at this. The very, very, very end of Bereshit. Look at the very end. Vayomer Yosef, the last 3 psukim. Vayomer Yosef elechav. Yosef says to his brothers, I'm going to die. And God will take you out of this land. Pakod yifkod etchem. He's going to redeem you from this land, and he will take you out. And then Yosef makes them swear that they'll take him then they go. Again, the swearing that they'll take him, because it's not so simple. And he dies, and they put him, the end of it is so powerful, and they put him in a aron, in a cabinet, in a grave in Egypt. Down. Sort of ruins of Yonah going down. He has to say, listen, God will take you out. They're already feeling the chains tightening on them. It's not us. There's no way out anymore. What if they want to leave? What if the brothers want to go? When was this famine over, by the way? It's over. What are they doing?
It's been over for quite some time.
What are they doing? Why aren't they going back? There's no going back anymore. They're stuck.
When they did come, they were settled in the best part.
They were. When they came, it was great. It was wonderful when they came.
No, but it does say, and they settled.
Oh yeah.
It's not like they just they didn't just camp.
No, they were there. They were there for
They made home.
And I agree with you 100%. And it makes a lot of sense when Yosef is there running the ship, and they have the power of their. But at some point, it becomes a honey trap.
Yes.
At some point, it becomes a honey trap, and it becomes a honey trap for the people, but even more so, it's a honey trap for the ruler himself. And here is what we want to get to. Yosef, one second. Yosef, let's put it this way, everyone who goes into government always has a trap in the place. Okay? The trap is like this. If I'm not in a good position, in a powerful position, I won't be able to help people. But being in a powerful position, I'm going to have to make decisions that are very difficult. If I make a really strong decision by my ideals and my values, I may step on too many toes. I may make too many people angry. Sometimes I'm going to have to give up on my values to keep my position, because my position is really important, because I could help people. But I'm only in my position to help people with my values. Oh, but sometimes you're going to have to give up on your... It's a trap. And it's a real trap. It's a real circle. That is not clear what you do. It's a catch-22. In other words, I'll only get... The more people I antagonize, the less power I'll have. So it may be better to not antagonize them. But if I don't antagonize them, sometimes when there are value judgments to make, I'm not standing up to my values. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
This mirrors Mordechai.
Vadai, it's going to mirror Mordechai. Mordechai is not like Yosef. And this is the story. Yosef didn't read it in time. Yosef, being part of Paro's, always saying, I'm here, I'm important, I'm doing what needs to be done. As he always did for all the people he served. He always was very loyal, did it well. He always said, my position is very important, I can do great things, and he can. At some point, you may have to break out. You may have to say, my position is important, I'm here and I can do, but there are things that I cannot agree to. At some point, every leader has to be able to say that. When you can't say that anymore, your position itself becomes just one of a loop of power.
So, but Yosef did know that it's all part of prophecy, and he knew that Amsar will be, like his brother will be in Egypt for a long time. So he just trusted in Hashem that, okay, this is the way it should be. I'm not sure, did prophecy already ended at this time? Mordechai's time?
So it's interesting where it is in the time. Yes, it seems like it ended at that time.
Mordechai didn't have prophecy, so he said, like, okay, I have to make my own decision, and he goes by Halacha, said, okay, that's the line.
So I agree that Mordechai, in this sense, is different than anyone else in that he's living in an age without. But I think Mordechai, Daniel, Nehemiah, we'll see in a second, they all learned from the only story in the Tanakh. Listen to this, the only story in the Tanakh, up until their time, of a Jew in exile. The whole story of the Tanakh is, once the Tanakh went to become the nation at least, is all in Israel. From Yoshua on, right? We're all talking about Jews in their own land. When they go into exile, you know what they did? They quickly opened their Tanachim and they said, let's learn the story of Yosef really, really, really well. Because this is our story. Jews in exile, what do? How do you act in exile? You look through Melachim, there's nothing in it. You look through Shmuel, there's nothing in it. There's nothing in it. You have the most of the Torah is a different situation than they are now. We're under foreign rule, foreign kings. Only the book of Bereshit deals with that. And the story of Yosef is the major story of what you do. Yosef being the ideal. What do you do in Galut? So they learn Yosef really well. And they follow Yosef to a point. Because Yosef, at the end of the day,
just kept going.
Didn't stop. Again, I agree with you. There was a prophecy. He knew at the end of the day there was. But man can't go by prophecy. You can't say, oh, there's a prophecy. I can say now, okay, Mashiach is going to come.
In the next 100 years.
So they knew that.
So Baba,
Build another floor.
That's why they built like permanent houses.
Give me a
Because they knew, okay, we're gonna be here
for a long time.
So,
They knew another. They knew. There's a prophecy from Brit Ben Abtarim, from Avram. It's true. I don't have an answer for that. That there was a knowledge to know, but it seems like, and there are a whole list of Chazal that I'm not bringing here, that they critique Yosef in all little things that he did, that he allowed his father to bow down to Paro, that he has to be'emet ask, why is he begging? There are things happening here that Yosef didn't read the signs quick enough in that sense, and didn't end when he had to end. He always
When he's in jail.
No,
for Potiphar.
Potiphar's wife.
Yeah.
Potiphar's wife. He says,
I'm not going there.
this is not. And then, what does it say? How did he save himself then? The famous midrash. He saw his father's face. He saw, I'm a Jew. What does he say? What in the midrash it says? Yaakov says, I will smite your name from the Choshen. I'll take you out. You want to be part of this family? You have to stand up for this. You want to be part of Am Yisrael? You want to be a Yehudi in this sense? You have to. There is Yosef's place where he stands against everything, and he could lose everything, right? Think about it. His position is so important. Just fool around a little bit and continue. You're going to lose everything. Of course, it's a danger to fool around, of course. But it's suicide to say no to the master's wife. You're in big trouble. Of course, you could be big trouble either way. But he's willing to do it. There he says. But later, as happens more and more, it's harder to make the decision. And I'm telling you, just look at politics in the world. Just look at politics in the world. Jews in serious positions throughout the world, suddenly they say, I just heard a great shiur where he gave an example of people who go on shlichut. Or even, what's the word? Shagririm. Ambassadors who go to other countries. So when they first get there, they come and they bring the word of the state, and they say Israel, 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 and this is what we are. They only present the Israeli government. The longer they stay, and they start becoming part of the culture, their language starts to change. They call back to the Knesset and they say, why are you making me look so bad with these decisions? What? Look, it's causing so much trouble. Would you please just stop being so contrary, so oppressive? So just stop. Chill. Let's chill. Just make people happy. Why do you have to be so? You lose the backbone of what makes you Jewish. Once you're part of it, just look at American government. Right? Jonathan Pollard will say, le schuto. He said, no, this is too much. No. And he paid the price. But that was it. Jonathan Pollard was someone who worked in the Defense Department, and he saw that the American government, this is again what I know general, wasn't really, I'm not sure if he was part of the CIA, I'm not sure exactly where, but the American government wasn't giving enough documents that they knew about, things they knew about in Iraq, that they were, even though they had to.
Jonathan Pollard.
Yes, Jonathan Pollard.
His wife passed
Jonathan
away.
Pollard. His wife just passed away, right?
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so he said no. He was part of the mechanization. He was part of the government, and he said no, and he paid the price. But many Americans and other countries, I'm doing such important things here for the people of Israel, so I'm willing to let it go that America said this and this. I'm willing to let it go that they did this and this to Israel because I'll lose my power if I go against it. So it's a trap. Mm-hmm. So when do you say no?
The media's a trap. Everything that the media says is that if the media catches one thing you do wrong, everyone tries to correct it.
But Ezra,
no, I'm not going to do that. Don't worry.
The media is a trap for everyone. Everyone. I'm saying, but for Jews with their dual loyalty, in a sense, their loyalty to Hashem and their people, and their loyalty to the place they are, they have a really difficult time. They really do. And Yosef is the first one who you see this. It's really difficult. So Daniel, who grows up in the king's court. I don't know if you know the story of Daniel, right? He's taken away. He grows up in the king's court, and he is a religious rebel. He's not willing to eat the non-kosher food. Him and his friends are not willing to bow down. He's not willing to stop davening even when there's a decree. Everything he does, he says, "I am here. I have a goyish name. His name is Belshazzar, the Daniel's name, and he says." And he's amazingly loyal to the king. Amazingly loyal to the king. Just like Yosef. But he's not willing to give up on the Jewish ideals till death. They throw them into the furnace, right? He gets thrown into the lion's den. He says, learning Yosef's story, they act like Yosef. They say, listen, it's okay to be part of the government. It's okay to be, I'm not running away to the shtetl in this sense. I'm part of this. It's okay to be part of it. We could do great things. He really does great things. But there are points where I say no. Nehemiah, right? Remember Nehemiah? Remember what he said? Where was Nehemiah? When we learned the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah's the wine bearer of the king. He is one of the most important jobs in the kingdom. When he hears what's happening in Yerushalayim, that's it. I have to go. There's a point in time where you're going to say, no, I can't. Must speak. And Mordechai.
This is the point?
Mordechai says no.
Right.
Mordechai was part of the Mechael. He learns from Yosef. He's inside. At some point, you have to say no. And Mordechai says no.
So
Yosef didn't say no, and Am Yisrael went into slavery. Here, Mordechai says, we understand Yosef is our basic role model, but there's some points where we have to say, I'm sorry, this whole thing is corrupt, and I can't be part of this anymore. It's part of every government. Every power structure is a play between the power to do good and the ideals that at some point you cannot go over. You cannot destroy. And it's always a balance, and it's very difficult. Now, every government that goes up, even now, this government, this is the great critiques on the governments, right? Oh, you're right wing, you're left wing, you're allowing this to happen, you're allowing this to happen. Where are your ideals? Where are your ideals? And you say, listen, if I give in my ideals, we won't have a government. I won't have a say here at all. You want me not to have a say at all? You want the other side to be completely in charge? I have to give up. How much do you give up, though? Not at all. Some. All politics needs an amount of give and take. It needs this. Mordechai is willing to change his name. He's willing to live apart from the Jews. In Shoshana Birah, he's willing to give up a lot. But there are some things he's not willing to give up. And to not being able to give up means you're a Jew. Really, that's what it means. It means a Jew, right? That's what we'll go back to what we started. Who's called a Jew? A Jew is someone who calls out a great injustice and is not willing to give in. Till death, as Daniel and his friends were willing to do. As we talked about in the beginning, the three great rules of Yareg Val Ya'avor. Right? These are the things, and those are the boundaries of the Jewish psyche. So we raise the ideal of idolatry to a political statement of idolatry, but that too isn't something a Jew cannot win. And really, if you think about it for a moment, throughout history, who were the great dissidents of history? Who were the ones who said, no, we won't accept this? Moshe is obviously the first. Throughout history, Jews, I'm saying way after this, Jews were always part of the people doing the unrest and saying, we can't do this. They led many different points. David, I don't think so in that sense, because this is already in the Jewish world. I'm saying with dealing with foreign governments, often Jews were in the focus of, this is the Soviet Union and in other places. What? And Mendelovitch.
Yeshua ben Levi, when he was having an argument with Rabbi Yehuda about whether or not the Roman Empire was actually good or bad for the Jews. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, I think. Possibly the person who said no when he was given a spot, being the treasure guy, during the expulsion of Jews in Spain.
Oh, the Barbanel, the people who are there and in the higher positions. No, but correct. These are issues that we always deal with. And we even have to deal with in our own governments. When do you say, my power is necessary, and I'm willing to give up ideals to keep this power so I can continue to do good? And when you say, it's too much. So this is what we're dealing with. These are the stories. And this is what Mordechai is willing to stop. Okay, this is where Mordechai says no. What?
And it's chapter 4.
This is chapter 3.
And chapter 4.
Chapter what? I don't understand.
Well,
when he goes out and yells and screams.
Mordechai and Esther gives him clothes, and Mordechai has to explain to her what is happening, and her response to the fact that the Jews will all be, I'm jumping ahead, that the Jews will be
destroyed.
Destroyed. Her response, let's read it exactly as it is. Is basically, to paraphrase,
Yes, but I cannot go to the king right now because it would be my death sentence.
Right.
And
And
he has
that,
to come here.
and there she says, my
My-
position is so important, I can't give it up. Mordechai, we can't give up. What's going on?
Yes.
Your whole life was to be part and not to stray. And that's what Mordechai says to her, of course, when we'll see there. There's we've gotten to the boundary where you have to show your colors.
Yeah.
Now how you do it, now Esther's a genius and how she does it, but that we'll see. Yes.
Have you ever heard of Rabbi Yehoshua Leib?
From
He
position me in history here.
He lived in Russia.
Okay.
Owned about owns like yeshivas and everything and all, probably several of them. And the Russian leader, the governor, I forgot what the hell he was called, wanted to like buy the yeshivas from him and everything and all. And all the yeshivas and everything, gave him tons of money, but he knew that he was gonna actually just shut them down once he bought them.
Okay.
And he said no. And then so the governor decided to like send a bunch of men after him. Or after the yeshivas and burn them all down and everything and all, but when that happened, they went over a bridge and all of them died.
So this is the same position that you're talking about. It's right, Mechael. In other words, what do you do when you deal with government? When you stand on your ideals? The Chabadnikim, right? The Russians, the Jews in Russia were unbelievable, standing in front of this whole apparatus. And in the end, that was a huge part of what knocked it down. You know, right? What knocked Russia off Soviet Union. A huge part of it. There are many reasons. But was the Jews saying, we're not accepting what's happening here. That's history, but not now. Tov. Beseder. So this is Be'emet. I think we'll end in a second. But I just want to point out. So this was like our first issue of chapter 3, which took us 2 lessons to go through. So that's okay. That's the first issue. The first issue is why Mordechai isn't bowing down, and the whole political mind of a Jew in Galut that we've seen sort of through the second chapter, and now in the third chapter we see a twist of it, of Mordechai saying, no, I can't accept this injustice. But we cannot, and we'd be amiss to not relate to the hint, almost the blatant statement in the Megillah that Haman, there's another issue with Haman. He's an Agagi. Okay? Agagi brings us, as we said, into a whole new realm of discussion. Up until now, we have a problem with the political structure of the government in Persia. That would have been correct with anyone that the king had taken and put there. But not only does he not take anyone, he takes an Agagite. We explained politically, historically, why he took Dafka Haman, a man without a nation, a man without a home, why he's in that position. But on a deeper reader of the Megillah, deeper reading of the Megillah, we have to understand what this is. So to do that, next lesson, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to go into Amalek. What is Amalek? What's their keta? Why are we fighting this battle hundreds of years later? Why do we still have to fight this battle? What do they present in the world? Why does Hashem get so angry at Amalek? Think about it. There are a lot of people who did bad things to us throughout history. Many, many, many people. Paro was much worse. But there's no mitzvah to wipe out the Egyptians. What is the story with Amalek?
Paro is a template with,
But they didn't
from God.
But we don't have a mitzvah. We don't have a mitzvah to destroy Mitzrayim or other nations. Rome. There are people who did Nebuchadnezzar. Right. There are people who did horrible, horrible things to us. Really horrible things to us. What did Amalek do that was so horrible? They met. Everyone asked this question.
They attacked us when we were down.
Oh wow! We're going to bring you a list of the people who attacked us when we were down. No, I'm serious. I mean, there are a lot of people who attacked us when we were down. Even just later in the parshas, we're going to meet other people. So we're going to go into different opinions of what exactly is the story with Amalek, and to continue our explanation of the Megillah, we're going to go into a certain vein of explanation of what Amalek symbolizes and why they're so destructive. Be'ezrat Hashem, that's our promo for Sunday. What? Tuesday today? Sunday. Okay. So, yeah.
It said that when they were attacking them, when the Amalekites attacked the Jews, Moshe's arms were up when they were thinking of Hashem and everything, and all and had Hashem. They were down when Hashem, when they didn't have it.
Right.
Were there ever a point when Moshe ever had his arms down?
It says when he put his arms down, they lost. In other words, it doesn't say if he puts his arms down. It says when they put their arms down. Yeah.
Aaron and someone else.
Hur, right? Have to hold his hands up. Yeah.